Hey everyone, this is Bax Art 19. Today I'm gonna tell you how to observe a particular image before you get into shading. That'll help you to create a realistic portrait. Okay, we can get started. Okay, here I have a picture of V. And before we dive in, I want to tell you how to choose a reference. Not a lot, just quick tips. What I will tell you about references are like when you're trying to draw realistic and hyper realistic art, try to get a very high definition image instead of a blurry one. And if you see the images that has shows the pores and everything, those are really good. So try to create a HD image. Another one I will tell you that one has a lot of depth and contrast. And what I will tell you is like not to take that is like whitewashed images or else like that is like the skin is very pale, you know. You can take that to begin with. I would ask you to avoid such images to start with. And one quick step before we proceed into art is that you change that into black and white. In my case, I have a mono filter in my iPad and phone, so I use that. So and then change them to black and white. I would suggest you to do that before you start into shading. These are the basic things. And today what we're gonna do is we're gonna observe his nose and how we can analyze things on his nose before we start shading. Okay, so if you see this image, the camera is little lower, so it is facing his face is like his eyes are looking down, and the camera is like towards upwards, so that's where you can see his nostrils very clear. So if we take this picture of his nose and how we gonna make it three-dimensional is like here, this area triangle, this is what you see, and that's how the image is like this. How to make it look three-dimensional, more realistic, is by observing the values. Here if you see, as it is like facing upwards, the light is over here, you see this area is dark. This is the darkest dark black, it's a hole, so there is no light. So you can start drawing this first with like a black charcoal pencil or powder. You can start with that, and you see there are like darker tones in here, and there is a dark tone over here, and a dark tone over here, and dark tones over here. You see, how you observe is what that's gonna make the art much better. As you practice, you will learn to increase your observing skills as well, which cannot be taught by anyone else. So practice is what that's gonna make you increase your observation skills as well. Try to take a portrait. If you don't have time for art, try to observe how there are values. Try to observe more how there are dark tones. So if you see this nose, you can start like a base layer with an HB or leave in state with the charcoal powder. Never leave any space complete white. Even if it's a highlight over here, this is still a skin tone. Cover it with like an HB or like a B pencil, and there are like minute highlights over here. Those are like very white. That spot you can leave it white. That you can create it with an eraser. So you always have to go with a base layer, and these dark parts are okay. You can start with the charcoal in the beginning as well. And how you analyze is you have to do this dark tone, a dark tone over here, a dark tone over here. And similarly, as these corners of these noses is like there is like a dark tone over here. If you see there is a dark line, you smudge it, and then there is a shadow beneath it as well. It's not like a dark line and then it's white or like pale outside. See, there is a shadow over here. You need to observe that. And over here after the nostrils, there is a minute height reflective light area, so there is a minute highlight over there. And similarly over here in the nostrils, you see this is completely black and dark, and there is a minute reflective light over here in the corner. You see there are lights over here, and this is like a very, very important and a very beautiful value you should never miss when you're drawing this nose here. What is going to make a huge difference is this particular reflective light. These two reflective lights are very, very important. You should never leave them, so observe that. And then you can do a little bit darker tone, and if you observe very carefully, there is a very little bit difference of darker tone in here, and then there's a darker tone over here, like an elongated rectangle shape. There is one, you don't see it because it's quite a bit darker over here. At least you can at least do it as a triangle over here. And how you see it's darker over here, not over there, is like the transition is over mild over here. You see the skin tone is here, as it's a projective area, there is a minute highlight over here. That's why when the same value, same darkness value, this pops up because there is a mild highlight over here. So you can create these highlights with an eraser, or kneaded eraser or pencil eraser. You can do a maze layer and do darker shades over here. And you need to observe these things in this nose, so you will be able to create the realistic value you're looking in your art. Similarly, where the nose starts, there is like a very dark area over here, closer to the eye skeleton. There's like eye socket, so there is like a dark patch over here, and there is a mid-tone value over here, and that's how it merges. And when you see the highlights, though you see them as white, it's not pure white, and there is like a gradual tone over here before it changes. So add, like, you can do a white over here, maybe I'll do a milder, you can do a HP over there, and then do like a 2B or something over here, and then the next layer you can do. And what I will tell you is, like, at least do the base layer. This layer should be completely done, and then you can do the minute layers of this one over here, and then you start creating the highlights over here with a pencil. I personally do not use a white gel pen for highlights on a skin. Highlights and those are, to me, I don't think they give a realistic value unless you are trying to give a very glossy shiny lip, or like a shiny part of the skin, or like where there's sweat. So that's a reflective part, or like glitters on an eyeshadow, that you can do with like a white pen. For skin, try to use a kneaded eraser or a pencil eraser to create these values, and I will show you my work, how I have done this art. This is still a work in progress. So if you see my art, so I have done whatever I told you as best as I could do, but this is multiple layers. One thing I wanted to say is, like, when I added my base layer, and then keep on adding the graphite and charcoal powder. So when you are trying to create an artwork, you see this is a dark value. Let's go back to the reference. So you see a dark value in here, a dark value in here, other than the nostril, which is a complete black. You think, okay, I'm just gonna use a darker pencil, or like dark value charcoal stately to make it dark. That is also an approach, but what I would recommend is go layer by layer, add a base layer, and add more value to it. So the more value you add, more details you add to the art, that gives you a more realistic approach. So the more time you spend also matters. And some people are fast, but what I prefer is like adding multiple layers, going for an HBB, and in between a charcoal powder on top of it. You can do that, build multiple layers. That when you build multiple layers, that give you a control to how these colors work, and then how these shades work, you know, where there's a mid-tone, is it too dark, or are you closer to what you are expecting in your art. That way it'll help you to reach. And one thing is add values and then add highlight. Don't leave the place completely blank. Always, at least what I meant, do the minimal, do the base layer, and then over here also leave a little bit space, but like make sure you can even add the highlight later as well once it's added. Okay, and never forget the reflective light over here, over here, over here. And how you can make your art much better is mainly by observing whatever I told you. However I observed, that's how I did it. So I have did a dark tone over here, especially over here, and the reflective lights, a darker part over here, and then a darker part over here. I still have to blend it, but this is the basic structure I'm talking about, and this is how I have observed my reference and I have implemented my shading. I hope this works for you. If you have any questions, please leave me in the comment section, and if you want more videos like this, please let me know. I will post them for you. Thank you so much. You guys have a great one. Bye.